Hello, everybody. It's Jim. It's Matt. Matt is on location, so he's with us via phone today. Matthew, good to have you back, buddy. And we've had a very busy 48 hours in Major League Baseball on the trading standpoint, and I think between now and 6 o'clock, we're going to have a lot of stuff to talk about when we touch base here tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of stuff's been moving early in the day. Some names that you expected to get traded really are the earliest of the movers. Tarek Skubal, I think everybody knew that was a guy that was going to get moved. Obviously, to who is now deemed the evil empire in baseball in the Los Angeles Dodgers. But then you had some other names that were assumptions that everybody kind of assumed were going to get moved. José Soriano from the Angels going to Toronto, and what I think is a confusing move, I think would probably be the best way to describe it. And then also Luis Arraez getting moved, and the current word on the street now is that Adley Rutschman is the next name to move. Likely, the talks right now seem to be with Boston.
I can tell you that Luis Arraez to the Phillies is a very good move for Philadelphia. And what that's going to do is it's going to put Bryce Harper in right field. Because Arraez is going to play second base. They'll probably move Bohm to first. I'm sorry. Not mess with that infield much. Bryce actually took his. They were on the Phillies were on the road, and he took his outfielder's glove with him. So he's. I mean, it's either Bohm or Harper, and if you're going to take one of those two guys and put them in the outfield, it ain't going to be Bohm. He's not what you want in the outfield. Out there. They tried him and didn't exactly work out so well. But, I mean, he's really a third baseman. But he can play first, and that's probably where he's going to play. Now, you were talking again about – let's go back and talk about Gausman gets moved from Toronto. And Toronto picks up, I'm sorry. Let me get my screen here so I can see who Toronto picked up.
José Soriano.
Oh, Soriano. Yeah, the thing on that, from what my understanding is Soriano, I mean, they didn't trade anything to get him. Not much, anyway. Here's something that I think people should understand, and I heard a lot of this from baseball people all weekend long, and that is that because we don't know what's going to happen next year, right? Some teams are kind of doing their winter meetings right now. The stuff we might see in the winter. So Soriano's got 2 years of control on him left. So the Blue Jays get a pitcher. They give up Gausman, but they get a pitcher who is not, he's not the top of the rotation guy, but he definitely is an innings eater, and he will, they control him for 2 more years. So I think that was where they were going with Soriano.
Yeah, and look, it's not the return they got was not nothing. Top 50 guy, shortstop. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, and even if I could, there's the chances that I pronounce it correctly are slim to none. But you are correct in the fact that I didn't get it initially. It is still a little bit confusing because obviously this is a team that is in sell mode, but they're trying to walk the line of buying and selling. And this will solidify their rotation going
forward. Matt, we lost you there, buddy. Can't hear you. Matthew. Let me go back through some deals that have done, and while Matt hooks back up. The Phillies picked up left-hander Brooks Raley from the Mets. The Mets got a right-handed pitcher, Luke Gabrysh, and an outfielder by the name of John Spikerman. The Braves got from the Angels pitcher Brett Suter. The Angels got infielder Nico Alvarez Jr. The Dodgers picked up a catcher today from the Mets, Ben Rortvedt, and the Mets got a right-handed pitcher by the name of Chayce McDermott. Yesterday's trading, the White Sox got, as we talked earlier about Kevin Gausman. The Blue Jays got outfielder Brent Bateman and infielder Ty Soriano. The Rays got Freddy Peralta, and the Mets got outfielder Adrian Smith, right-hand pitcher Gary Hill, and second baseman Emilio Perez. The Yankees, of course, picked up Luis Garcia Jr. from the Nationals. The Nationals 4 pitchers, and I think he's back with us now. Hang on one second. Matt, I was going down the list of trades that had happened, and I actually was right at Freddy Peralta at the time that you was just about to leave. So we'll get your thoughts on Freddy.
Yeah, Freddy is the kind of arm that you still believe in. This is a down year for him, obviously, but I think you watch, what he's done some of these outings, and there's still obviously the signs of what he was in Milwaukee. And if there's a place, really, I mean, if there was going to be 2 places, it was either going to be going back to Milwaukee or going to Tampa Bay that you would believe in them finding the secret sauce that he had back there in Milwaukee. So it's a trade, to be quite honest, as somebody who is a fan of a team that's in the same division as the Tampa Bay Rays, that scares me a little bit because, as Shane McClanahan continues to progress, and obviously he had the injury with his back, but once he comes back, that's not something that's going to be, impossible to come back from.
Right.
You have McClanahan, Rasmussen, and Peralta as well. And I'm working off the assumption that the Rays are going to figure it out with Freddy Peralta. I mean, that's just the way my brain is wired at this point with the Tampa Bay Rays. So that's a formidable top 3, especially when you get into these short series in the playoffs.
One of the things that, to your point about Peralta, is they spoke. I heard an interview done with Eric Nylander, and he said that he gave him a list. He gave the pitching coach a list of pitchers to grade, and he graded, Freddie in the top 3. He said that, he goes, I know what his problem is, and we can fix it. So, take from that what you will.
Yeah. Another trade that just came from John Heyman 10 minutes ago was Joe Adell has been traded to the Guardians, which I think is an interesting move.
Yeah.
By a team that doesn't. The Guardians are in that central division. I mean, both of the central divisions, AL or NL. Right. Those teams just aren't prone to buying ever. Right. And so when they do buy, it's almost it's almost like seeing a ghost. And so it's a little strange to see the Guardians being active on the trade block.
Yeah, it was one of the things that I thought was curious, and it was something that was brought up on the on Major League MLB Network today, and that was about the Milwaukee and Tampa Bay with regard to Tarek Skubal, and there was a debate about why didn't Milwaukee, every year Milwaukee's right there, right? They have a good season, they have good players, and they just can't make it to the World Series. And if ever there was a year, people were saying, well, this could be the year. But Milwaukee and Tampa Bay have a totally different thought process, and that is they're not going to give up, a ton of their of their uh, of their good young potential prospects to get a guy who's only going to be with them for a few months. Despite
Yeah.
the fact that that might be, that person might be the one person that could get them over the top. But I don't think that either Milwaukee or Tampa Bay was a Terry Skubal away from a World Series.
The argument can be made. I think for Milwaukee, it's a little bit different for them than it is Tampa Bay.
Mm-hmm.
Tampa Bay in the division that they're in and who they have to go through, that's a different, in terms of the level of competition they're going to have to face to make it to the World Series.
Mm-hmm.
Milwaukee and Tampa Bay are facing two different paths.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of what Milwaukee needs as well, if you have Mizorowski and Skubal,
Mm-hmm.
that one too. I mean, there's obviously no guarantees in anything. Tarek Skubal lost a playoff game last year in Cleveland. There's no guarantees when a guy steps on the mound. But if you have those two guys going out there, you're pretty much marking those down as wins, right? Like that's
Well,
the belief you have.
that would not be a group of people I would want to face.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I think that I agree that if there was one of the two teams that were willing to part with the with the people that they that they figured were the key players in this trade, it probably should have been Milwaukee.
Yeah, and that's where, because when you look at it and you have those two guys going, and say you get to a 7-game set in the NLCS, right? And
Right.
say, everyone would expect them to be playing the Dodgers, right?
Right.
Then you have those two guys going 4 games.
Mhm.
At least that's what you would believe. And with those two guys going 4 games, you can play, fun math on trying to figure out, okay, well, if we take our wins here, like trying to math your way to your 4 wins, your 4 wins are the 4 games that those two would have started. Like that's where you would have been. And I think that's the reason for the disappointment. And it's understandable. And obviously where he went is also a part of that disappointment. And apparently a big sticking point for the Dodgers on that trade was, as much as it was about having Tarek Skubal on their team, it
Yeah.
was as much about that as not having to face Tarek Skubal come October.
Yeah. Well, according to Andrew Friedman, they had one trade to make, and
Yeah.
that was it. That he goes, there was one, and he goes, and they talked to him about what he goes. Well, look, obviously you're getting a guy who's a two-time two-time Cy Young Award winner. He goes, nobody's going to argue about whether or not Terry Skubal is good. Because our concern was, where is Shohei Ohtani's health going to be, not over the next couple months, but they're set for October is what they're looking at, and they're basically saying, look, that's the only place we want to be. And the reason the Dodgers pulled it off on Saturday night was they put the package together that they asked for in Detroit, and basically Detroit, said, let us think about it, and we'll get back to you. And Friedman said, look, this is the deal. I mean, we're just, yeah, we're not changing any of these guys. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
the guys we're willing to get, and I'm saying now, the Tigers were really in on Zaire Hope. Now, River Ryan could be could step out of that and be the star. We don't know. But Zaire Hope was the guy that they wanted. They think, Zaire Hope is a young and very talented outfielder. The Dodgers are absolutely stacked in the outfield. And they think that, I mean, the Tigers think that they got a pitcher who's going to pitch for them for a long time in River Ryan, and an outfielder in Zaire Hope, who also is going to be with them for a long time. So they
Yeah.
figure that the two guys they wanted from the Dodgers, and I guess they just want to get Skubal, that Skubal thing off the books as quick as possible.
Yeah. I just don't. I don't fully understand the Tigers' thinking. If I'm being quite honest, I think their general manager should be fired for the way it was handled. Because this is not a deal that you do on Saturday night when the deadline's on Monday at 6.
Yeah.
Not with this guy, not with this name, not with all of the players that are going to be involved in this name. Because I mean, yes, the Rays, the Brewers, and the Dodgers were the three names at the top of the list, right?
Hey.
But the reports were that Philly put together a really strong package for him, and there were other clubs interested as well. You would think that the Yankees and the Red Sox, given their standings as well, probably would have been interested. I think I've seen them mentioned. And that's a package where you get, Zaire Hope, who is in AA, and he is really the key piece of that deal. But the secondary piece of that deal is River Ryan, and I have a hard time with that because
he's had arm surgery.
He's fresh off of an arm surgery, and he's a year and a little less than a month younger than Tarek Skubal. Like, that's what it is. And this is a guy that has played, he's made it to the major league level, but he hasn't stuck there. And now this is another key piece of this. I just have a hard time believing that if you waited out till Monday that you're not going to get a better deal, from either side, like whether it be from Los Angeles, whether it be from Tampa Bay. Like, it felt like something where with that guy you can create a bidding war. And people say things about leverage. Well, yes and no. Like, there is the leverage of, like, these teams are vying after each other. I get that this is a guy that you have to move off of because of the contract that he's going to have and what he can command in a return. But the trigger felt very fast on that deal for Tarek Skubal for me.
Well, it was, I think when I heard it on Saturday, I thought, well, this is a proposed deal. I didn't think it was a deal. And then it was reported as a deal. And then you're like, oh, wait a minute. And look, there's no Zaire Hope and River Ryan and Brady Smith could all three end up being on, the Tigers and being good on the Tigers. I don't know. I mean, that's why they call them prospects. I know Tarek Skubal can pitch. So when he was, and I'm going to give him lots of credit yesterday for how well he handled his, brief press conference where he just thanked everybody in the Tiger organization and the fans and everybody that, all the players and everybody. And, and he kept saying that, he said everything right. Everything you would want him to say, he said. And then at the end, which is something you would also want him to say, because I can't wait to play for the Dodgers. Well, there's a shock. I can't wait to play for the Dodgers. That's I can get that. And so, I mean, again, I give him, he was a class act about the whole thing, and I thought that was a good deal from that standpoint. One of the ones that was a little bit of a head scratcher for me, and I've seen this kid, and I don't dislike him at all. Luis Garcia from the Nationals to the Yankees for 4 pitchers.
Yeah, and that's a deal where the Yankees were able to acquire a bat that's been fantastic this season. This season. This season. That is true. But he's a bat with years of control still. He's got a couple of years of control on him. And the biggest thing is, as good as his numbers are right now, you stick him in front of that short porch as a left-handed hitter, and things can get better. That helps. And it's a way. It's Brian Cashman's way around paying the premium for a catcher in this market, because it is a catcher needy market in terms of the buyers and in terms of the catchers that are available and the price tags on them. They were limited. And what this does is it will allow Luis Garcia to platoon at first base and DH with Paul Goldschmidt, and they're going to move Ben Rice to catcher, and he will also DH. And so that Ben Rice moving back to catcher, which was his original position when he came up, is going to allow them to fill that hole, because it's an offensive hole for them. Austin Wells has been nothing short of absolutely horrific this year. After having a couple of nice seasons back to back, but this year he's just been god awful. And so it fixes a hole in a roundabout way. And again, it was another deal that when I saw it come across, I was like, well, yeah, okay, that's what they need. They need more corner infield power. Like that's not exactly what you would have thought, specifically from the first base position with Goldschmidt, with Ben Rice. I think the biggest counter argument I have to that is Ben Rice has been fantastic this year. He's in the middle of a career year. This is a breakout year, and now you're making a position change to a position that, quite frankly, wasn't fantastic at when he came up. And I think he's settled in a lot better at first base. But it's going to be interesting now, because you're now kind of banking on, I guess, an experiment. What is a really good ad in terms of what it could be to fill their position of need at catcher, but you're banking on an experiment here to fill that need.
Yeah, the other thing is, and this is, look, Garcia has been a good kid. He's been, solid. He's been, he's not been this hitter. Okay, this is either a breakout season or an aberration. I don't know. But there's one thing that I can tell you, and this is, again, I watched the kid. I like the kid. He seems to be, the team loves him, that sort of thing. So he's a good guy, no doubt about it. His defense isn't exactly the greatest.
Yeah, his defense is really bad.
I didn't want to go that far, but yeah, it's not. They didn't get this kid for his defense.
Yeah, no, he's not a fantastic defender. And if you're the Yankees, it is a question, because it's something that's bit them specifically in the middle infield with, it's been more steady when José Caballero's been in there at shortstop, but with the injuries that they have and the way things are slotted right now, Anthony Volpe is your shortstop and Jazz Chisholm is your second baseman.
Right.
And when those guys aren't producing offensively, their defensive struggles are a lot more glaring.
Sure.
And so you add another minus defender to that infield, I would say it definitely increases your pressure, I guess would be the best way that I could say it in terms of the fielding. And when you have the pitching that is as good as the Yankees pitching, I think you would be a little bit more wary on the defense that you're putting behind them, because they do have a rotation. And if they were to add, they would have a bullpen that can win them playoff series. Like that's how good this rotation can be when healthy. And you will minimize their potential impact when you don't put a good defense behind them.
The thing with Garcia, and I'll stop there and we can move on, but the thing with Garcia that I've seen is, for those of you who haven't seen him, one of the things that you want in a first baseman is someone who can make a pick, when a guy throws the ball in the dirt, and, because not everybody throws it right to first base, and a good first baseman will make a shortstop or a second baseman look good. The problem with Garcia is he can take a good play from a second baseman or a shortstop and make it look bad. And that's, I believe, the problem for me with that is that it's not like he's not athletic. It's not like he can't be taught it. It's just that he hasn't got it yet. Okay. Now, maybe a year from now, he'll be fine. And for his sake, I hope he is. I mean, he's a good kid. Like I said, he's a good ball player. But I was curious about, okay, I get the bat part. That's not a problem. Again, whether it's an aberration or a breakout, I hope for him it's a breakout. But the defense I thought was, really, and they didn't
Yeah.
get a bad haul out of this. They got some decent pitchers.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, heck, they pulled Jake Bird, who was, 2 outs into the ninth of a blowout in AAA.
Right.
They pulled him from that game. But it's a scenario where the defense definitely has to, like, it should factor in. And I think that the price that they could get him at is what made this appealing.
Probably.
And the price plus the control. Obviously, the bat is what it is, and you were willing to overlook the defense because of the price that you were getting him at. And it's a thing that, and I'm not saying he's for, like they're actively shopping him by any measures, but the Nationals have had discussions, and if for the right price, C.J. Abrams is available. Why wouldn't somebody like the Red Sox go out and get a C.J. Abrams for go give him that haul when there's a bat like that available? Part of the problem is his defense at shortstop. Like at a certain point, the defense does factor in. And obviously, it's not something that they are all that concerned about, whether it be Aaron Boone or Brian Cashman. That Yankees organization is more concerned about the bat going in that lineup. And if I'm being honest, I think a little bit of it has to do with the fact that they really need some power with the absence of Bellinger, Stanton, and Judge.
Right. Yeah. So I don't think there's any question about that. So it did. You're just when you're talking a second ago with the Red Sox and the Nationals on the shortstop situation. Much of the issues we mentioned that the Nationals had, what was it? I think it was 18 or 19. They led the league in blown saves, and much of that was because of that infield.
Mm-hmm.
They'd get 2 outs, and the funny thing is that infield athletically is phenomenal. These 4 kids can play really good. They'll make some amazing plays. Then they'll take a routine play and make it into a disaster. So I don't know. All right, let's move on. What do you think of the Braves? I mean, they're making moves. They're not making headlines, but they're making moves.
Yeah, and I had seen a report at the back end of last week, and it said something to the effect of we're looking. I think that the general consensus was Alex Anthopoulos was going to treat this one like 2021, where he kind of bought on the fringe. After some of the bigger names, he got some of the second tier guys for a lower price.
Yeah.
So far, that seems to be what they're doing. And if I'm being quite honest with you, I don't get it. Like in terms of the talent that you have on this roster and what is potentially coming back in your rotation, and what you have on the back end of that bullpen with Raisel Iglesias and Robert Suarez, Didier Fuentes has been fantastic out of the bullpen for them. They have the ability to go and get it, and they know what their needs are. They need a starting pitcher, and they need a shortstop. Like that's not a secret. Go and get it. Like the guys they have in their farm system, some of them are very good. I get that, but these aren't like top 10 guys in major league pipeline type guys. So go out and get the deal done. Like this is a championship window for the Atlanta Braves, and for all that they've dealt with in terms of the injuries on that front, they still sit 20 plus games over 500 and in command of the NL East division. Like this is an opportunity for you to go out and really like put yourself in a position to compete with the Dodgers. They have the talent available, and the deal that I think would it would solve all problems, and God, I know it would be a hefty price to pay. I don't know what the price would be, but if they would find a way to pair Jacob deGrom and Corey Seager from the Texas Rangers. That fixes all their problems and the largest way possible. And again, it would be a very large price tag on that. I'm aware of that. But the reports are that Jacob deGrom would waive his no trade clause for a place like Atlanta, and Corey Seager, he would fill that shortstop position very well with a left-handed bat that plays to that chop house as well.
Mm-hmm. No, that would be a very interesting thing. One last Braves question: why Lane Thomas? I like him. I mean, he's not a bad kid, but why?
They needed another outfielder, and I think they felt like he was an upgrade over what they have currently in Mike Yastrzemski. I think it gives them a little bit more athleticism defensively in that outfield. And look, the Kansas City Royals right now are not a very good baseball team.
No, I'm not saying. And again, I'm not throwing shade on Lane Thomas. I'm just saying. That's a deal. That's a deal. You sit there and go, okay. There's why. And your answer is good. I mean, you need another outfielder. He's a solid outfielder. He's not going to hurt you. He's got a pretty decent arm. I don't know. I don't see Yastrzemski play that much, so I can't speak to whether he can play or not. But certainly, I can speak to Lane. I've seen him play a lot, and he, he's got good routes. Awareness, so he's not gonna hurt you that way. He's got a good glove. He makes the right catches. He's smart. He knows when to throw the ball back to second base and when to make a play for the plate. So his IQ, his baseball IQ, and his abilities are fine. I just didn't know that whether or not. I mean, is he an upgrade? He's an upgrade over a lot of players, a lot of outfielders in Major League Baseball, but. Is he somebody who's going to get you closer to the, to the World Series? Not on his own for sure.
Yeah, and that's again there. I think that there's if the deadline was right now at 1 p.m. and this is what the Braves have to show for it. There's reason to be upset with Alex Anthopoulos in the front office. Because again, this is a very good scenario for you to buy. Acuna came back; he's played well, and they play better with Acuna in the lineup. Whether it be just him, sometimes there's just a factor whether or not the guy himself is playing well about somebody being back in the lineup, and Acuna has that effect on the Braves and their entire lineup really.
Sure.
And so when you have that ability, this is where it gets a little frustrating on the buying on the margins. You need a starter, and you know that you need a shortstop. Whether you go a little bit more cost effective, you can still go get legitimate options on that. And so far, their starter is Bailey Falter, and so far their shortstop is nobody. And what they have going, look, Jim Jarvis has been solid for them. It's been nice. They need somebody other than a rookie shortstop to come in and fill that gap for them if they're going to go compete for this World Series, and they have the prospect capital and the ability to do so. So that's where, and it doesn't have to be. You don't have to go get Zach Neto. You don't have to go get C.J. Abrams to go fill that void, but you have to go find somebody that can legitimately play the shortstop position. That will be a cost-effective deal because right now, whether it be Jim Jarvis or Hyun-Sung Kim, who's back in AAA, Hyun-Sung Kim has been horrible this year when he has played. They need somebody to add. It doesn't have to be, he doesn't have to hit 260 with 20 bombs. That's not what I'm saying. This is a guy that's going to slot ninth for you, but it has to be somebody that can put together a competitive at bat. Hyun-Sung Kim doesn't do it, and as you get later in the season, you'd worry about how Jim Jarvis is going to be able to sustain what he's done this year.
Right. And the other thing to note here is the Braves aren't they're not a poor team from a standpoint of cost wise. It's not like they got money. This is not a team that does not have. They print money. So why they wouldn't look at somebody who could come in there And even if you have to eat some contract, I would think that might be somebody they would at least consider. Anyway,
Yeah.
so let's go back. Anything else? Let's see if I'm just tracking to see if there's any other things that pop since we've started talking here. I'm not seeing anything.
Well, this is we can talk about Adley Rutschman because according to all the reports, this is a deal that is done pending medicals. Now, granted, the Red Sox have a spotty history in terms of their medical staff and how much I trust them in this, in that medical evaluation. I don't know. But we'll just play in the hypothetical that Adley Rutschman does make it to Boston. The medicals check out and all that stuff. That's the catcher position and what they'll pay to get this guy, to stay in the AL East is going to be a premium, but it's going to be such a significant upgrade at a position of need for the Red Sox, assuming it gets across the line. For a team that's been hot, and they talked about it extensively last night on Sunday Night Baseball with Kershaw, with a little less with Hershiser because he's a little bit older. The deadline days were a little bit different for him.
Yeah.
But specifically to Kershaw and the vibe that it can have in a locker room, and you talked about it with the Brewers and Mizorowski and what it can do. This is a team that deserves to buy. This is a team that deserves an upgrade at a position of need, and Adley Rutschman gives that. He's a plus defender, and when he's been healthy, he's been a really good bat. He hasn't been this season, but again, the injuries have flared up this year. If this is a guy that can come back and really be 3/4 of what he was in 23, then this is a home run get. Curious to see the return on it. That's something, because I mentioned the fact that when talks were ongoing with the Yankees about Adley Rutschman, it was well known that there was going to be a premium paid for this being an in-division trade.
Right.
You assume that premium is going to be paid in this case as well. But just a massive position of need. And Baltimore's already selling. They just sent Taylor Ward to Seattle. That's a guy that they acquired from the Angels in the offseason. Really expected him to provide a lot of pop at the top of that order. And he's not been bad. He's been very good in hitting for average. But all of the pop he had in Anaheim seems to have disappeared, and a lot more of it is line drive based now. So it's a position where the Orioles are selling. I think they feel comfortable in selling. Taylor Ward was not going to be a long-term, fix for them. And in terms of in terms of selling off Adley, this is a position where they feel okay at catcher because Samuel Basallo is sitting right there behind him.
Yep. Well, I'll tell you what, we got to get going here. We got some stuff coming up at 1:00, and we're past that time. Tomorrow we will know what happened, and hopefully we'll have some more fun figuring it out. Until then, folks, thanks very much for joining us. Greatly appreciate it. Bye. Hey, Matt.
Hey.